Imagine you're sitting alone in a radio observatory. The room is silent except for the steady hum of computers scanning the cosmos. Suddenly, every monitor flashes at once. A signal has arrived. Not from Earth, not from a satellite, not from the moon, but from somewhere unimaginably far away. For just 72 seconds, the universe seems to speak. Astronomers freeze. Computers verify the data. Then, the signal disappears forever. More than 4 decades later, despite billions of dollars in technology and countless hours searching the skies, no one has ever found it again. Was it a natural phenomenon, a cosmic coincidence? Or did humanity briefly intercepted something that was never meant to be heard? Tonight, we reopen one of the greatest unsolved mysteries ever recorded. The signal from space that nobody can explain. For thousands of years, humanity has looked into the night sky with the same question echoing through every civilization. Are we alone? Long before telescopes pierced the darkness, ancient cultures imagined the heavens as the dwelling place of gods, angels, spirits, or worlds beyond imagination. The stars became maps, myths, warnings, and promises. Every generation searched the sky, hoping that one day something might answer back. Today, our understanding of the universe has changed dramatically. We know our galaxy alone contains hundreds of billions of stars. Beyond the Milky Way lie trillions of other galaxies, each filled with countless suns and planets. The numbers are almost impossible to comprehend. Yet, despite all our discoveries, one question remains stubbornly unanswered. Has anyone else ever tried to communicate? If you're fascinated by mysteries where science meets the unknown, subscribe to Chronicle Nexus. Here, every mystery is explored with evidence, historical context, and an open mind, because sometimes the greatest discoveries begin with questions no one can fully answer. Throughout the 20th century, humanity transformed from simply observing the cosmos to actively listening for voices hidden among the stars. Massive radio telescopes stretched across deserts and valleys, patiently collecting whispers traveling through space for millions or even billions of years. Unlike visible light, radio waves can cross enormous cosmic distances with relatively little interference. They pass through clouds of gas and dust that block ordinary light, carrying information across the galaxy like invisible messengers. Every second, Earth is bombarded by radio emissions from pulsars, quasars, exploding stars, distant galaxies, and countless natural sources. To trained astronomers, these signals form an intricate cosmic symphony. Most of it is predictable. Most of it can be explained. But occasionally, the universe plays a note no one recognizes. During the Cold War, advances in radio astronomy accelerated rapidly. Governments funded enormous scientific projects, partly to understand space. And partly because technologies developed for astronomy often had military applications. At the same time, another revolutionary idea captured the imagination of scientists. If intelligent civilizations existed elsewhere in the galaxy, radio waves might be the easiest way to communicate across the vastness of space. In 1960, astronomer Frank Drake launched Project Ozma, the first modern scientific attempt to search for extraterrestrial radio transmissions. Using the Green Bank telescope, he pointed his receiver toward nearby sun-like stars, hoping to detect an artificial signal. Nothing definitive appeared, but the experiment changed everything. It proved that searching for intelligent life could be approached scientifically rather than through speculation alone. Over the following decades, increasingly sophisticated observatories joined the effort. Sensitive receivers monitored millions of frequencies around the clock. Computers learned to distinguish natural cosmic noise from unusual patterns. Most anomalies were eventually explained. Equipment errors, satellite interference, military transmissions, natural astrophysical events. The universe, while mysterious, usually revealed logical answers. Usually, by the summer of 1977, one particular observatory in rural Ohio had become one of the world's most remarkable ears pointed toward the stars. Known simply as the Big Ear Radio Observatory, it looked unlike the giant movable dishes many people imagine when they think of telescopes. Instead, its enormous metal structures remained fixed, while Earth's rotation slowly swept different regions of the sky overhead, night after night. Day after day, quietly listening, the observatory's computers continuously printed endless pages of numbers and letters, representing incoming radio signals. Most sheets looked monotonous, filled with routine measurements that scientists rarely examine twice. But hidden among thousands of ordinary printouts, waited a pattern unlike anything anyone had ever seen. One volunteer astronomer would stumble upon it almost by accident. His name was Jerry Eamon. Eamon wasn't searching for fame. He wasn't expecting history. He was simply reviewing stacks of computer printouts, looking for anything unusual. Then one line stopped him cold. The sequence looked almost random. 6EQJU5. To anyone else, those 6 characters meant absolutely nothing. To a radio astronomer, they meant everything. Each letter and number represented signal intensity over time. Together, they described something extraordinary, a radio transmission that grew steadily stronger before fading away in almost perfect symmetry. Exactly what scientists expected if a distant source drifted naturally through Big Ear's field of view as Earth rotated. The strength of the signal was astonishing, far above ordinary background noise, far above random fluctuations. Far above anything normally recorded, Eamon stared at the printout in disbelief. He circled the mysterious sequence with a bright red pen. Then, in the margin beside it, he wrote a single word that would become one of the most famous annotations in scientific history. Wow! That handwritten reaction would eventually give the event its unforgettable name, the wow signal. The signal itself lasted only 72 seconds. Then it vanished. No warning, no explanation, no repeat performance. The telescope continued scanning. Nothing. Scientists searched again. Nothing. Days became months. Months became years. Decades passed. The same region of space was observed repeatedly by increasingly powerful instruments capable of detecting signals far weaker than the original event. Silence. It was as though the universe had whispered exactly once and then refused to speak again. At first, researchers remained cautious. Extraordinary observations demand extraordinary scrutiny. Before considering dramatic explanations, every mundane possibility had to be eliminated. Could the telescope have malfunctioned? The equipment showed no sign of failure. Could another observatory have transmitted accidentally? No known terrestrial source matched the signal's characteristics. Could it have originated from an aircraft or satellite? Not in 1977, according to available tracking records.
The signal also appeared remarkably narrow in frequency, a feature generally associated with artificial transmitters rather than broad natural emissions.
But caution remained essential. One unexplained observation is not proof of extraterrestrial intelligence. It is simply an unanswered question. And unanswered questions have a remarkable way of pulling humanity deeper into the unknown. Because as scientists began examining where the mysterious transmission appeared to originate, they uncovered another layer of the mystery, one that would spark decades of debate, inspire countless investigations, and challenge everything researchers thought they understood about signals from the depths of space. That search was only beginning. The moment Jerry Amon circled that now famous sequence of characters, the mystery officially began, but the investigation would prove far more difficult than anyone imagined. Unlike a photograph or a physical artifact, a radio signal leaves almost nothing behind. There is no object to examine under a microscope, no fragment to collect, no ancient inscription to decode. Once the transmission passes Earth, it is gone forever, leaving only the data captured in those fleeting 72 seconds. For astronomers, that presented an enormous challenge. A discovery in science must be repeatable. If an event cannot be observed again, every conclusion remains tentative. The wow signal had all the characteristics of something extraordinary, yet it refused to cooperate with the scientific method. Researchers began with the most basic question: where exactly had it come from? Because Big Ear was a fixed radio telescope, it did not point directly at objects the way modern steerable dishes do. Instead, Earth's rotation slowly carried different regions of the sky through its narrow listening beam. By measuring precisely when the signal appeared, astronomers could estimate the direction from which it had arrived. The calculations pointed toward the constellation Sagittarius, in the direction of the dense central region of our Milky Way galaxy. This immediately captured scientific attention. Sagittarius is one of the richest regions in the night sky. Looking toward it means looking through countless stars, gas clouds, and ancient stellar systems packed together over tens of thousands of light years. If another intelligent civilization existed somewhere within our galaxy, statistically speaking, this crowded neighborhood would not be a surprising place to search. But the telescope's design introduced another complication. Big Ear used two separate receiving horns. A genuine source drifting through the sky should normally have appeared in one receiver, and then, a few minutes later, in the second. Yet the wow signal was detected only once. Was this evidence that the source itself had vanished? Or had it transmitted so briefly that the second receiver simply missed it? Even today, astronomers cannot answer that question with certainty. The uncertainty became part of the mystery itself. As researchers mapped the signal's approximate location, another intriguing detail emerged. Its frequency measured approximately 1,420 megahertz. To most people, that number means very little. To radio astronomers, it means almost everything. This frequency is associated with neutral hydrogen, the most abundant element in the universe. Hydrogen formed shortly after the Big Bang. It fills galaxies, creates stars, and serves as one of the fundamental building blocks of cosmic structure. Because it is so common, astronomers around the world routinely observe hydrogen emissions to map the Milky Way and distant galaxies. Decades before the wow signal, several scientists had suggested something fascinating. If an advanced civilization wanted to announce its existence, what frequency would it choose? The hydrogen line quickly became a favorite candidate. It is a kind of universal landmark, one that any civilization with even a modest understanding of astronomy would likely recognize. Imagine trying to meet a stranger somewhere on Earth without sharing a common language. You might choose a location everyone knows. The summit of Mount Everest, the equator, or the prime meridian. In the vastness of space, the hydrogen frequency serves a similar purpose, a naturally significant place on the radio spectrum. The wow signal appeared astonishingly close to that universal marker. Coincidence? Perhaps. Compelling? Absolutely. Yet, astronomy has taught scientists a valuable lesson. Coincidences happen. The universe is unimaginably large, and rare events become inevitable when enough stars, planets, and galaxies exist. That is why evidence must always outweigh excitement. Over the years, observatories around the world repeatedly searched the same region of the sky. Again, nothing. Larger telescopes listened. Nothing. More sensitive instruments searched. Nothing. The silence became almost as mysterious as the signal itself. If it had been an intelligent transmission, deliberately sent toward Earth, why only once? If it had been accidental, what kind of civilization produces a 72-second radio burst that is never repeated? If it came from a natural source, why had no known astrophysical process ever produced an identical signature? Each answer seemed to create two new questions. Meanwhile, the mystery began escaping the scientific community and entering popular culture. Newspapers published headlines about an unexplained message from space. Television documentaries recreated the discovery with dramatic music and flashing computer screens. Books explored increasingly imaginative possibilities. Some writers confidently declared it proof of extraterrestrial intelligence. Others dismissed it as little more than equipment noise. Neither conclusion reflected the actual scientific evidence. The truth was far more interesting. Scientists simply did not know. That distinction matters. Science is not weakened by uncertainty. In many ways, uncertainty is where science does its best work. Every unexplained observation becomes an invitation to investigate more carefully. As technology improved throughout the 1980s and 1990s, astronomers developed increasingly sophisticated methods for separating genuine cosmic signals from interference generated here on Earth. This turned out to be more difficult than most people realize. Modern civilization constantly fills the atmosphere with radio waves. Television broadcasts, communication satellites, aircraft radar, military systems, mobile phones, GPS networks, weather satellites. Even microwave ovens leak tiny amounts of radio energy under certain conditions. From the perspective of a radio telescope, Earth itself has become astonishingly noisy. Distinguishing a genuine cosmic whisper from humanity's own electronic chatter is like trying to hear a single violin across a crowded football stadium.
Because of this, researchers revisited every conceivable terrestrial explanation. Could an undiscovered military transmission have crossed the telescope's beam?
Historical records found no convincing match. Could classified satellites have been responsible? Again, available evidence failed to support the idea. Could atmospheric reflections briefly amplify distant Earth-based broadcasts? Extensive analyses suggested that such reflections could not reproduce all the characteristics observed in the original data. One by one, familiar explanations became increasingly difficult to defend. Still, difficult is not impossible, and responsible scientists refuse to leap beyond the evidence. Around this time, another profound question emerged. Perhaps everyone had been asking the wrong question from the beginning. Instead of asking, who sent the signal, maybe they should ask, what if nobody sent it at all? The universe often produces phenomena that appear artificial until physics finally explains them. Pulsars provide a perfect example. When they were first discovered in 1967, their remarkably regular radio pulses were so precise that some astronomers jokingly labeled the source LGM, short for Little Green Men. The signals seemed almost engineered. Only later did scientists realize they were observing rapidly rotating neutron stars, the incredibly dense remnants of exploded suns. Nature had once again proven capable of creating patterns that mimicked intelligence. Could the WOW signal be another case like that? A natural phenomenon not yet understood? If so, what kind? Comets were proposed. Hydrogen clouds became candidates. Gravitational lensing entered the discussion. Exotic astrophysical events were modeled on powerful computers. Each hypothesis explained certain aspects of the signal. None explained all of them. The puzzle remained incomplete. Then, decades after the original detection, one research team proposed a new possibility that reignited the debate across the scientific community. Their explanation was elegant, simple, entirely natural, and yet many astronomers remained unconvinced. Instead of closing the mystery, the new theory reopened it in an entirely unexpected way. Because if they were right, the WOW signal was not evidence of another civilization. But if they were wrong, then one of humanity's greatest unanswered questions was still waiting somewhere among the stars. In 2016, nearly 4 decades after the WOW signal briefly echoed across scientific history, the mystery seemed poised for a breakthrough. Astronomer Antonio Paris proposed an explanation that, at first glance, appeared both elegant and entirely grounded in known physics. His focus was not on distant stars or hypothetical civilizations. Instead, he looked much closer to home. Comets. Paris noted that 2 comets, 266P Christensen and P 2008Y2 Gibbs, had passed through approximately the same region of the sky as the WOW signal around the time it was detected in 1977. Because comets are surrounded by enormous clouds of hydrogen gas, created as sunlight breaks apart water molecules in their icy nuclei, he suggested that these hydrogen clouds might have emitted radio waves near the famous hydrogen line frequency.
If true, the mystery might finally have a perfectly natural explanation.
To test the idea, Paris and his team observed the comets during later passes through the inner solar system. They reported detecting radio emissions near the same frequency, arguing that similar hydrogen clouds could have produced the signal Jerry Eman observed decades earlier. News headlines quickly spread across the world. Wow! Signal solved! The mystery is over. But science rarely moves that quickly. Within weeks, astronomers around the world began carefully evaluating the evidence. Some praised the effort. Others pointed out significant problems. The first concern involved intensity. The original wow signal was extraordinarily strong. Many researchers argued that hydrogen clouds surrounding ordinary comets simply could not generate such a powerful, narrow radio burst detectable from Earth in the manner observed. Another issue involved the signal's shape. The original transmission rose smoothly to a peak before fading almost perfectly as the source drifted through Big Ear's observation beam. Replicating that precise profile using diffuse cometary hydrogen proved difficult. Then came perhaps the most important criticism: independent verification. Other astronomers attempted similar observations but failed to reproduce emissions matching the original signal with sufficient strength or consistency. In science, reproducibility is everything. One promising experiment is only the beginning. Multiple independent confirmations are what transform hypotheses into accepted explanations. Those confirmations never arrived. Today, the comet hypothesis remains one possibility among several, not a universally accepted solution. In other words, the mystery survives. That may seem frustrating, but it reflects the strength of the scientific process.
Scientists are willing to abandon exciting ideas if evidence fails to support them, and they are equally willing to leave questions unanswered rather than force conclusions that the data cannot justify. The wow signal remains suspended in that fascinating space between explanation and mystery. Over the years, researchers have explored dozens of competing possibilities. Perhaps an unusual hydrogen cloud, amplified by a rare cosmic alignment, briefly created the signal. Perhaps gravitational lensing magnified a distant radio source for only a few moments before Earth's movement changed the geometry forever. Perhaps an unknown astrophysical event, one never before recorded and never since repeated, generated precisely the right conditions. Every scenario solves part of the puzzle. None solve it completely. Of course, whenever unexplained phenomena arise, another possibility inevitably enters public discussion. Could the signal have originated from an intelligent civilization? This idea captures imaginations because the signal possesses several characteristics scientists have long considered promising indicators of artificial transmission. It was remarkably narrow in frequency. It appeared close to the hydrogen line. Its intensity changed exactly as expected for a distant fixed source crossing Big Ear. And perhaps most importantly, it has never been convincingly explained. Yet these observations alone fall far short of proof. Modern SETI researchers, the scientists dedicated to the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, are exceptionally careful about making extraordinary claims. History has taught them caution.
Numerous exciting detections have eventually turned out to be satellites, radar reflections, software glitches, unexpected terrestrial interference, or previously unknown natural phenomena. The lesson is simple. Extraordinary possibilities require extraordinary evidence. The wow signal remains extraordinary. The evidence remains incomplete. That balance is exactly why it continues to fascinate scientists nearly 50 years later. If you've made it this far, you're probably asking yourself the same question astronomers have debated for decades. Which theory do you believe is closest to the truth? Share your opinion in the comments. Do you think the signal was produced by an unknown natural phenomenon? A rare astronomical event? A comet? Or do you believe humanity may have briefly intercepted something created by another intelligent civilization? Whatever your view, the discussion itself is part of what makes science so compelling, because every hypothesis must eventually answer to evidence. As the 21st century unfolded, humanity's ability to search the cosmos advanced dramatically. The Allen Telescope Array in California began scanning thousands of stars simultaneously. China completed FAST, the 500-meter aperture spherical telescope, the largest filled-aperture radio telescope ever constructed. Its immense reflective dish stretches across a natural valley like a giant metallic eye staring into the universe. Meanwhile, the Green Bank Telescope in West Virginia and observatories across Australia, Europe, and South Africa joined increasingly sophisticated searches. Then came one of the most ambitious scientific initiatives ever attempted: Breakthrough Listen. Funded with hundreds of millions of dollars in support, the project launched the most comprehensive search for extraterrestrial technological signatures in history. Instead of examining only a handful of nearby stars, researchers began surveying millions of stellar systems across vast portions of the Milky Way. The volume of collected data became staggering. Every day, observatories generated information measured not in gigabytes, but in terabytes and petabytes. Artificial intelligence entered the search, identifying subtle patterns that human researchers might overlook. Machine learning algorithms learn to distinguish satellites from pulsars, radar from quasars, interference from genuine astronomical events. Ironically, AI has become one of humanity's newest tools in the search for intelligence beyond Earth. Despite these unprecedented advances, nothing has conclusively matched the wow signal. That absence is meaningful. Not because it proves the signal was unique, but because it reminds us how little of the universe we have actually explored. Imagine standing on a beach, scooping up a single glass of seawater, and declaring there are no whales in the ocean because none appeared inside your glass. The comparison may sound absurd, yet astronomically speaking, humanity has examined only a tiny fraction of the cosmic ocean. Even our most ambitious surveys represent a minuscule sample of the Milky Way. The silence we observe may simply reflect the enormous scale of the search, or perhaps intelligent civilizations are exceedingly rare. Perhaps technological societies survive only briefly. Perhaps they communicate using methods we have not yet imagined. Or perhaps the universe is exactly as quiet as it seems. Every possibility remains on the table. That uncertainty has inspired philosophers, physicists, theologians, and historians alike.
For some, the silence reinforces the extraordinary uniqueness of life on Earth. For others, it suggests we have only begun learning how to listen. There is another perspective worth considering. The wow signal has become more than a scientific mystery. It has become a mirror. When people hear its story, they often reveal as much about themselves as about the universe. Some immediately imagine extraterrestrial civilizations. Others see unknown laws of physics waiting to be discovered. Still others view it as a reminder of humanity's enduring desire to find meaning beyond our own world.
Perhaps that is why this 72-second transmission continues to capture our imagination.
Not because we know what it was, but because we don't. And sometimes the greatest discoveries begin not with answers, but with questions that refuse to disappear. The story, however, is not over. Because before we can decide what the wow signal might have been, we must confront an even bigger mystery, one that stretches across the entire universe. If intelligent life should be common, then where is everyone? That question leads us to the famous Fermi paradox and to a conclusion that may be even more unsettling than the signal itself. To understand why, we have to look beyond 72 mysterious seconds and into the silent immensity of the cosmos itself. The question seems almost impossible to ignore. If our galaxy contains hundreds of billions of stars, and many of those stars have planets, where is everyone? This puzzle became famous in 1950 when physicist Enrico Fermi reportedly asked a simple question during lunch with colleagues. Where is everybody? It became known as the Fermi paradox. On one side are the overwhelming numbers. Astronomers now estimate that the Milky Way alone contains hundreds of millions, perhaps billions, of potentially habitable planets. Beyond our galaxy lie trillions more galaxies, each with countless worlds. Statistically, it seems unlikely that Earth would be the only place where intelligence emerged. Yet, after decades of searching, no confirmed signals, no verified spacecraft. No indisputable evidence of another technological civilization, only silence. The wow signal occupies a unique place within that silence. It is not proof that someone is out there, nor is it proof that no one is. Instead, it stands as a reminder that the universe still contains phenomena we do not yet understand. Some researchers suggest that intelligent civilizations deliberately remain quiet. Others argue that advanced societies may communicate using technologies far beyond radio waves, methods completely invisible to our instruments. Quantum communication, laser pulses, neutrino beams. Or perhaps something humanity has not yet discovered. These ideas remain speculative. There is currently no evidence that such systems are being used by extraterrestrial civilizations. Still, they remind us of an important truth. Our assumptions are limited by our own technology. 200 years ago, radio itself would have sounded like magic. What will humanity discover 200 years from now? Another possibility is far less comforting. Perhaps civilizations simply do not last. History on Earth offers a sobering lesson. Human civilizations rise, they flourish, then many disappear. Empires collapse, knowledge is lost, cultures vanish. If technological societies elsewhere follow similar paths, the window during which they transmit detectable signals might be astonishingly brief on cosmic timescales. Imagine two fireflies blinking in opposite ends of a vast forest. Unless their flashes overlap at precisely the same moment, they never see one another. Perhaps civilizations are like that, separated not only by unimaginable distances, but by time itself. Then there is the possibility that Earth has already received countless extraordinary signals, but failed to recognize them. Every day, radio telescopes collect oceans of information. Much of it is filtered automatically. Some is discarded as interference. Other portions remain archived, waiting for future scientists equipped with more advanced algorithms. Could another wow already exist somewhere inside decades of stored observations? Researchers are actively exploring that possibility using artificial intelligence capable of detecting subtle anomalies humans may never notice. The search continues, quietly, patiently, just as it did in 1977. Nearly half a century has passed since Jerry Eman circled those 6 characters with a red pen, 6EQUJ5. One handwritten word transformed an ordinary computer printout into one of the most famous scientific artifacts in modern astronomy. Wow! Ironically, Jerry Eman himself remained remarkably cautious throughout his life. He never claimed the signal proved extraterrestrial intelligence. He consistently reminded people that extraordinary conclusions required extraordinary evidence. His restraint serves as an example of good science. Curiosity without certainty, wonder without exaggeration, questions without assumptions. That balance is what separates investigation from speculation. Today, new observatories continue listening to the cosmos with sensitivity unimaginable in 1977. The Square Kilometre Array, currently under construction across Australia and South Africa, promises to become the largest radio observatory ever built. Its combined collecting area will allow scientists to detect incredibly faint radio emissions across enormous distances. At the same time, space telescopes are discovering thousands of exoplanets. Some orbit comfortably within the habitable zones of their stars. Others possess atmospheres that future instruments may analyze for signs of biological activity. For the first time in human history, the search for life beyond Earth is no longer purely philosophical. It has become an active scientific endeavor. Each year brings new discoveries. New planets, new technologies, new questions. Perhaps one day another signal will arrive, longer, clearer, repeatable. Perhaps it will be immediately recognized as natural, or perhaps it will force humanity to rewrite everything we think we know about our place in the universe. Until that day comes, the wow signal remains exactly what it has always been. An unresolved mystery, neither solved nor confirmed. Balanced carefully between possibility and evidence. Some viewers may leave convinced it was an unknown astrophysical phenomenon. Others may suspect an artificial origin. Many will remain undecided. And perhaps that is the most honest conclusion of all. History is filled with mysteries that seemed impossible until new discoveries changed everything. Continents once thought mythical were eventually mapped. Invisible bacteria transformed medicine.
Gravitational waves, predicted for a century, were finally detected.
Every generation inherits unanswered questions from the one before it.
The wow signal may simply be one more question waiting for its answer. Or it may forever remain a brief whisper from a universe that owes us no explanations. As we continue listening to the stars, perhaps the greatest discovery will not be another civilization.
Perhaps it will be a deeper understanding of nature itself.
Because every mystery, whether ultimately explained by physics, astronomy, or something entirely unexpected, expands the boundaries of human knowledge.
And maybe that is the real message hidden within those unforgettable 72 seconds.
Not that someone spoke, but that humanity learned to listen. If mysteries keep you awake at night, subscribe to Chronicle Nexus, like this video, and share it with fellow mystery lovers. Every week, we journey into the forgotten corners of history, science, archaeology, and the unexplained, where evidence matters, questions remain open, and the next great mystery is always waiting just beyond the horizon. Because somewhere out there, the universe may still have another story to tell. Fade to black.